folks either have a website, they have a website, or they want one. Okay, about half. And how many people feel they have at least some knowledge of WordPress, what WordPress is? Okay, a fewer. Okay, so hopefully that'll be the goal here today. Is we're going to talk a little bit generally about WordPress, and more specifically, we're going to talk about WordPress.com, which is a simplified version of WordPress. And I'll go through step by step as to how to actually set up these sites so that you can get a flavor for this. What I'm doing now is, you're already getting a taste of this. This is the dashboard, but you can't see it. You will be getting a taste of what the dashboard, so-called dashboard, looks like. Unlike other site builders that are very, very simple, Wix or Squarespace or anything else, WordPress is a little more complicated in that you have an internal sort of control panel, a dashboard, where you do all the manipulation of a website, and then the actual website itself, which is viewed externally. So it's two different kind of things. Bear with me here. And how do I get an additional one?
If you want to get out of the
That's fine.
presentation to be able to.
Well, then just get me back in the presentation. I'm more of a PC than a Mac user. I guess you should be ambidextrous. But
I'll send
I'll get back to the slides in the flash drive.
Maybe the first thing we should do is move it from there. So let's go back.
I mean, this is also just a lesson. You're constantly learning this on WordPress. So if you're going to get involved using WordPress as a tool to create a website, you're at the beginning of a very interesting learning curve. You just kind of never stop. I think the simplified version of WordPress, called WordPress.com, is one of the least painful entry points into WordPress. And hopefully that will encourage some folks to stay for the demo when we actually create some sites. Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Jonathan. So a quick profile of myself. I was a Peace Corps volunteer many years ago. My career was in international development. I still work downtown as an IT contractor at State. But my passion after hours in my free time is the WordPress community. And we're talking about computer users groups and WordPress. It's a very dynamic community, all ages, maybe a little bit younger because a lot of folks are still in the workforce, but really you can take advantage of the software at any age. I'm a WordPress user. I have a winery and brewery, a blog that I maintain. It needs some redesign and some rejuvenation. That's one of my projects. It's going to be later. It's on WordPress.com, so it's an example of how to use the technology. And I'm a PMP is an acronym for Project Management Professional Certification. So that's my approach to this. Although I've had some education in computers, my main background is as a project manager, both my current job and really throughout my international development career. And that's kind of my approach on this. And the other point I'd like to make is we're going to talk about WordPress in the context of, well, there's some interesting characters in the WordPress community. And that's a great thing about it. You got all ages, all different backgrounds. It's a very, very nice group of people. They're very forgiving in terms of learning new technologies, so it's a great place to learn. But the point I want to make was about strategy. We're not just talking about mechanically standing up a website. Really, your bigger question, regardless of whether it's for some work project or volunteer or just a personal or a hobbyist kind of thing, you have to have a strategy for doing the website. Question one is, well, what about everything else in social media? What about your Facebook page? Do you have a LinkedIn account? There are a zillion other different kinds of online tools and accounts all across the web. Besides WordPress. WordPress is a dominant provider. It's over a third of all the websites on the World Wide Web. So it's a big, big name and a user-friendly vehicle to create a website, but your strategy should be, well, what do I already have in terms of social media? How might a website complement or add to that? And I'm going to argue it can be kind of a hub, it can be a sort of a central point for you. So that's one issue on strategy. The other is, all of us are of an age where when the internet did not exist, sort of pre-computer, well, the real world, I have news for us, still exists. Okay? So that's one of the reasons I handed out a paper handout and a paper business card. The physical world still exists. So there are events like this, for example. You may have a reason to have brochures or run advertisements in traditional media. So the real world exists. So your website should fit into that bigger picture of what's real world marketing or presence, as well as your digital presence. I have 3 handouts that I think most of you have. I tried to boil this down to just 2 pages, and there's some extras, or I have some extras later on. This stuff's all online. There is a website on the, let's see, page 2 at the top, wpweb4pro.wordpress.com. So the handouts are there, my slides are on the website, and some other materials and tips for standing up a WordPress.com website. And I'm also offering to do free coaching afterwards. One in-person meeting, some follow-up by email or by phone, and I'm also thinking of doing a Google Meet, a webinar, in about 3 weeks, and there's a specific date to get a group of you together, just go over some basics of WordPress. A lot of this is about branding, either personally or professionally. I mentioned the concept of hub. I'm getting into 4 sort of different examples of how you can use WordPress, small business, nonprofit, for photos or as a personal blogger, and then we'll do kind of a step-by-step demo. WordPress, it's kind of 2 different levels. There's some big names, media companies, others that use WordPress. There are lots of different ways to customize the application. There are over 48,000 plugins. Plugins are additive functionality that you can increase the capability of WordPress. Compared to applications like Drupal or SharePoint, it's much more user-friendly, it's much more accessible, and it's really the big player. It's evolved over time. It's about 12 years old. Matt Mullenweg was the founder, sort of the guru that launched this open source software. And it's evolved. It used to be just blogging software, something that bloggers did. But it really is a full-fledged website content management system. So you can do a regular website with all the things a website will do, or you can have a traditional blogging application. The Gutenberg, there's a big change in the WordPress functionality about 10 months ago. It got a new editor, which is much more powerful. It's called a block editor. And this new editor is a core feature of WordPress software. There's There's a difference in the WordPress community between a WordPress.org site, which is very much more complex. You have to go find a host. You have to do a lot of the self-support, take care of security, for example. And most of my presentation today will be focused on WordPress.com. It's a flavor. It's a simplified version of WordPress. It's all in one. So you log onto the platform, software is there for you, security is built in. Most importantly, a lot of support, a tremendous amount of support, answering questions, how do I use WordPress, is all built in. And it's free initially. You can, down the road, if you want more functionality, you can pay for something on a monthly basis, but you don't have to. You can have a free site forever. So that's what I'm kind of suggesting here today, is that software, which is supported by a company called Automatic, WordPress.com is a great entry point if you want a relatively cheap way, a user-friendly way to start up a website. Now there are alternatives to WordPress. You don't have to go to WordPress if you want a website. How many people have heard about Wix or Squarespace? Okay, there are lots of other applications that are more user-friendly than WordPress. They're either as cheap or relatively low cost. I have a link there of PC Magazine, I think, does very good annual rankings and analyses of all kinds of software. And they have one on what are called site builders. And they'll rank which of these site builders are the best. You can also do even something more easy and bare bones. You can do an About Me page. You can do that in a half hour, get the basics about yourself. Or you can use an existing account that you have, Facebook or LinkedIn, or just use that as kind of your home base, your home page on the web, and don't bother with the website software. The advantages for WordPress is it's got a great learning curve. In these other applications, you avoid the WordPress learning curve, easy starter designs, templates. You're working directly on your site. In WordPress, we're going to have this division between a back-end dashboard, where you as the administrator are manipulating the website, and what is appearing on the front end to the user. So that difference in entering and working with the site is an abstraction in WordPress that you don't get in these other easier site builders. The downside is these things are very difficult to customize, whereas WordPress is, even the simplified version, is much easier to customize. And WordPress, because it really dominates the web as the big website application of choice, it is a huge community. I'm attending a national conference in St. Louis later next week. There are small conferences called WordCamps all over the place. There's a meetup in DC, there's another meetup in Virginia. So there's a huge community of people that do this stuff. Now, that being said, most will be talking about in these communities the WordPress.org, more complex WordPress sites. Not so much WordPress.com. It's still core WordPress functionality. So that community, physically online conferences, is still there for you. And these applications are all very much reflected. I think I made this point earlier. There's still a need for a website today. I heard a webinar by cont'd. It's sort of a marketing email application. There's still a need for a website today. Is perhaps because the web is so big and complex and ever changing, it helps to have kind of a central place that you control to sort of share your information. But in the later demo, I can work with you to set up your account and site in probably 10 or 15 minutes. But doing the content and the design takes a lot longer. It really is kind of a spectrum. If it's a simple blog, it can be maybe just a few days. But if it's a more complex site, lots of content, maybe a small organization, other people getting into that, you're talking a few months. I mean, because it's partly the technology, but a lot of just the content. Where's the content? And working with the team and reviewing the site, making sure it works properly. So any website has to have a purpose and a plan. I circulated early with, or Jonathan did with the announcement, a form to fill out. If anyone wants a website either now or later, or you'd like me to help out with coaching, I've asked you to fill out a form that's on the website, that's, I think, linked on the Apple Pie announcement. What do you want to do with the website? What's the name? What's the content? Is it linking to other things? It's a minimum of 10 questions, but better sort of 17 questions. But this is just a step into, it really has to be a planning process. If you're not going to think this through, don't bother. Do the planning up front rather than do no planning. You've thrown up all this technology and then you want to change it later down the road. It's very, very inefficient. Decide on your level of effort. As I said, it could be a few days to a few months. You can be at various levels. How many folks would consider themselves developers or coders, or not so much? Okay, a few. You can really get into WordPress, even WordPress.com. Really get into the nuts and bolts. You get into CSS with some of the upper level versions of WordPress.com. I come to this more from a sort of a website design perspective. So there's a whole range, or you can just be a casual user, and I think that's kind of my focus in the later demos. It's just set up a simple site and then coach people on how to get a simple WordPress.com site working for you. Okay, so what are the pros? It's WordPress.com, the simplified version. It does provide a good basic site. It's easy to set up. It's mainly for bloggers, but it's really evolved to be a more complex content management system. It's fully supported. That's the attraction. It's one-stop shop. So if you do a .org site that's kind of on your own, you have to find a host, GoDaddy or Bluehost. You have to find a company that's going to host this on the site. You have to take care of security. You have to, there are a lot of responsibilities that you're going to have. You have musical accompaniment.
Musical accompaniment.
The benefit of WordPress, I'm trying to sort of talk a little bit, WordPress.com is you get all this all packaged. So they have their platform. They provide the security. They provide the built-in WordPress help and assistance to use the application. My own. What do you want to do, John?
It's coming from the office, yeah.
Writing's not that easy.
So what do you want to do?
And you told me no sound would come with your presentation. While we're waiting,
Sure.
Gary, would you just talk a little bit about your background and how you sort of came to be doing this?
Yeah, I was chatting with Dave before the presentation. I used to work in SharePoint. That was my Microsoft SharePoint. And it was most of my career my early career as an IT contractor. So I'm not, my IT government job is now almost all WordPress, because we have an internal blog that we support. But in my free time, I've gotten very involved in the WordPress community, conferences, word teams. So yeah, it's kind of it's a change for me in terms of background.
Thanks.
Well, thanks for that. So yeah, I think there's some powerful arguments for WordPress.com as a one-stop shop platform. Now, that being said, WordPress.com is proprietary, so they got their own platform. While the core software does not change, the interface sometimes they will tweak. They have only 300 themes that they make available. Sometimes their library of themes changes. They have built-in functionality like a contact form that they will provide. That also may change, sometimes for the good. So there's some tweaks to their flavor of WordPress that WordPress.com controls. You do have to do some testing on sites. It's not necessarily good to go. I did some volunteer consulting with a nonprofit in Virginia. We had some issues with it working fully on tablets and personal devices, phones, in addition to the desktop. So you need to even to do testing with their application, even though they claim it's pretty much good to go. Okay, what are some scenarios? You can really, this kind of gets to the spectrum of your involvement. You can just use this for fun. It's kind of an experiment. You can set up a site fairly quickly, and you can just kind of fool around with it. You can keep this private so no one sees it. You can use it as your own sandbox and experiment and learn from it. You can, without my assistance or anyone else, you can do it yourself, but you're going to have to learn it. There's a learning curve on knowing the ins and outs of working with a dashboard and how to control the WordPress software. The good thing is there's an upward path. So if you get into this and you say, hey, either I want to learn more and do more, or I've learned enough, but I really need kind of some assistance, you can either, you can upgrade to a paid plan. They're not that $5, $8, $26 a month. You can upgrade within WordPress.com with all the support that it provides, and either do more yourself or pay someone, get some outside volunteer help to make the application even more powerful. You can also, a WordPress.org, which is a more complex, powerful version of software, it's very easy to migrate from a WordPress.com site to a .org site. So you can use WordPress.com as sort of like WordPress on training wheels to prepare you or prepare your organization for a much more complex .org application. And then here's some of the terminology that's being used. I think I've mentioned plugins, it's added functionality. Widgets, it's the same idea. To get content into WordPress, you need the three main areas or vehicles are doing a post, which is dynamic. You think of kind of a blog entry, it changes over time. That's one sort of entry point into manipulating the software. Another is a page, which is more static, like an about page. That's another piece of WordPress terminology. And media. Media is all the graphics and images and like that you want to put on your site. So page, post, menu are some of the three key entry points that you're going to be manipulating to get WordPress to work for you. Theme is an important concept. Theme means it's layout. It's a framework. So WordPress itself really does nothing. You can do a post and a page, but where's the layout? Where's the look and feel of my website? Does it have 3 columns? Does it have just a blogging format? Does it have different colors? Does it have the capability to do a big header image? Can I put a logo there? I have a restaurant versus I have a nonprofit versus a personal blog. So the theme, and there are over 300 in WordPress.com, gives you all these varied layouts. So from the get-go, you have a framework where the site is laid out, and then you fine-tune the framework thereafter. Oh, and then the block editor. That's the new, more powerful editor. Name is known by Gutenberg. That's been in existence for about 10 months. You can do a lot more the new block editor is for any kind of a WordPress site. So it's built into WordPress.com and gives you a lot more flexibility. There's something called a reader. It's kind of a broad WordPress community. You can communicate with other sites that have WordPress.com. It's I guess a newsletter is the way to describe it. It's called the reader. It's a more passive function of information that you can consult. Okay, and let's actually kind of look at a site example. This is someone asked where can I get the links on the handout that are on this site. WordPress for Everyone website. And this is an example of a WordPress.com site. Use the textbook theme. This is what it looks like, not bad. I used just a default image for the background right off the site. Now I put this together in just a few hours. Some themes are easier to work with than other themes. Some take a look. It's sort of an educational process because the WordPress software varies a bit depending on what the theme does. So that's another part of the deeper dive into learning WordPress. It's not just the core technology. Depending on the theme you use, you're going to have to get involved with learning the theme. Okay, there's great support. I'm describing sort of 3 categories of support that you get included in just signing on to a WordPress.com account. The first is that they have a library of themes, and they have a sort of their own filtered search engine. So you can actually, let's see if we can take a look at it. Is you just double click on the link?
Yes.
Is there an underscore in front of theme and info? Or with space or something?
No.
No space.
It's here. Okay. Well, let me just get back to the slides. How do I move the? There's always a transition. This is based on PowerPoint, so sometimes there's a translation issue between PowerPoint. But what the search engine does is it's sort of a portal. So you can scroll through all the different themes. You get an information page on what the theme is all about. And you can sort of look at the theme of your choice and you can activate it. It's very easy to activate a new theme or switch and go back. So this sort of built-in theme library and information aspects is a feature of working with WordPress.com. The sort of other 2 slides that are on support, one is that you have a great interactive support community that's available for you, and there are chat sessions for the paid or the premium accounts. There are WordCamps and WordPress conferences that you can go to. You can, am I back?
Yeah.
How about that? Okay. So there's this interactive feature in addition to what you can get online. So, but to just recap, so you have this theme library that you can use. This is an example. This is a screenshot of what you'll see. It's a search engine to go through all the themes that they have. It'll do a live demo of the theme. It will give information on what it does, the functionality of the theme. And it's, you see in the middle of the screen here, feature, layout, column, subject, style. So it filters. So this is a very handy thing. If you have a WordPress.org site with your own host out on the web, there are literally thousands of themes and plugins for you to use. But it's not an easy way to, where are they? Which one should I use? Which one's recommended? So they've got their built-in library and a way to search it that you can use. This is the textbook theme. This is an example of one of the pages. So if you're looking for sites, this I think is under the search filter of nonprofits. You'll find the textbook theme. This is an example of what the page does. You can get information overview, you scroll down and get the details, or you can open a live demo. They also have a huge database of information on how to use various aspects of WordPress functionality. So you're always, well, how do I do a post? Or how do I do a page? How do I get a certain thing done? You can click on the interactive help I mentioned. There's a part of the package of support is they have an online course called Blogging University to give you an idea of how to use the software. Okay. So Jonathan, maybe you could sort of get me oriented
Oh, I'm sorry.
He's hiding.
Yes.
to the, get me oriented to the demo. And we'll
Do you want
actually
to go
take,
back to the web then?
yeah, go back to the web. Let's see. Okay. Okay, now is this projecting or? I have an issue with this. I wanted to kind of show what the dashboard looks like that you're manipulating internally and how that differentiates from the actual site.
I think this is the mischief of
PowerPoint.
my Parallels toolbox. And the other possibility is that PowerPoint is commanding the whole screen.
Okay. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't I go through I'll finish the information on the slides and do the demo as we have time for the end. Maybe that makes more sense.
Okay.
Still in the slides? Okay. This is kind of just a planning slide on how to, a fair amount of work's involved. If you're migrating from an old site, that's something that's important in step 3, implementation. You may need a tool to sort of carry out the migration. Marketing, maintenance in step 4. Also, metrics is a big deal.